All right, well, I guess we're live. Welcome back to another episode of Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. My name is DJ Sir Daniel. I want to give a special shout out to the live audience that's here. Give yourselves a round of applause. We are broadcasting live from Atlanta at the Scratch Atlanta DJ Academy. I want to give a shout out to DJ Precise once again for allowing us to use the space. We thank you, sir. On the
give it up, man.
Yeah,
louder. Make some goddamn noise.
Right, drink champs. Nah, but
right.
And on the mix just now, you heard DJ Tommy Black cutting it up for us while we were getting in the mood here for this interview for our next guest. Tommy. And I'm happy you're listening because that means you made it through the past few weeks, which have been eventful to say the least. But I'm here to distract you for about an hour or so, and this is going to be an excellent show. This episode focuses on a brother that I feel like I've been shadowing him for the past couple decades, and we didn't even know it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, today's guest has been a staple on the Atlanta airwaves as a premier mix show DJ. He is an Atlanta DMC champion, Red Bull three-star finalist. He's also spent over a decade touring with probably one of Atlanta's major rap artists, superstars. If you're lucky enough to have him as your instructor here at the Scratch Atlanta Academy, I consider yourself lucky that you've had him as your teacher. So when we come back, we're going to chop it up with the one and only DJ Jaycee. This one is going to be a live wire, y'all. I mean, it might go viral. I'm hoping. I'm crossing my fingers. But look, this is Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. I'm your host, DJ Sir Daniel. Keep it locked. We'll be right back after this. Today's episode of Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast, is brought to you by my friends at Scratch DJ Academy Atlanta. All DJs are not created equal, but we can all start with a solid foundation. If you want to start your DJ journey, please contact my friends at Scratch Academy today. If you're in the beginning stages, or you want to tighten up your skills, or even learn production, contact the Scratch Academy by logging on to scratch.com and pick the location closest to you. Again, that's scratch.com and pick the location nearest you. It's that simple. And welcome back. It's Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. I'm your host, DJ Sir Daniel. Once again, thank you to our audience here live at the Scratch Atlanta DJ Academy. Give yourselves a round of applause again. As I said in the intro, this is going to be a great interview. I'm honored to be sitting next to the one and only DJ Jaycee. Give it up for him. DJ Jaycee is in the building. Thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Oh, no, not at all, man. Listen, you and I, we had an impromptu pre-interview session at the sound table. Shout out to all those drinks.
Yes.
And
I had like 3 glasses of.
Yeah, that was a very live conversation that I'm gonna let you save all that stuff for the book, because that was a live conversation that we had.
Okay.
And yeah, you need to save that for the book. But you describe yourself as one of the most versatile DJs on the scene.
Yes.
So what do you attribute your versatility?
Let me see. I grew up listening to a lot of different music, man. You know, originally from Detroit. A lot of different styles of music was played on the radio. You know, as a kid, you know, I was exposed to a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, I had, you know how some people say it takes a village, you know, in referring to, you know, raising kids and all that kind of stuff. I had a musical village that I was surrounded by.
Wow. Who was in that village?
Well, first off, you know, my great grandma, you know, she had a record store. Nice. She had a record store.
You remember the name of the store?
C&J Records. And
that was in Detroit?
In Detroit, right on Intervale, on the corner of Intervale and North Lawn.
Wow. Is it still there? Or?
Oh, no. It closed like in the mid-'70s. Mm. But, yeah. You know, so because of her, I was definitely exposed to records. You know, I've been surrounded by records all my life.
Right.
You know, so radio wasn't segregated like it is now. You know, so on our heritage station WJLB, you could hear the Jackson 5, Isley Brothers, as well as Peter Frampton, Steely Dan, you know, just a wide variety of music. You know, I had next door neighbors that were into Roy Ayers, Donald Byrd, Black Uhuru. I wasn't really the reggae guy, you know, so like when they would smoke weed and play Bob Marley and all that kind of stuff, I would kind of tune it out. Be like, I don't really understand it, you know. But definitely a lot of music was played in my household. You know, my mom was into a lot of different things. You know, the main ingredient was one of her favorite groups. Okay. You know, she came up on like Jerry Butler. You know, of course, you know, you can't say enough about the Motown era.
Of course, right there in their backyard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, Hitsville, USA. You know.
So growing up with that, that's like the recipe for a perfect storm, basically, for a perfect DJ. Is like you growing up with all that, the musical influence and you know, access to records, and you know, shout out to all the mom and pops. And we're going to discuss record stores and retails a little bit later. Okay. But actually, you know what? Fast forward when we come to you came here to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And when you discussed your journey in Atlanta, an Atlanta landmark came up in our conversation. Speaking of record stores, okay. Why was earwax important to the culture? To Atlanta hip hop culture and just hip hop,
just
in
DJ
general,
culture, period.
And DJ culture, and period.
Earwax was very important, man. You know, before earwax, you definitely had record stores, mom and pop record stores in different neighborhoods, right? But when earwax came, it kind of, you know, DJs from all different pockets of the city just kind of congregated on the corners of 11th and Peachtree.
Right.
You know, DJs that would normally stay on their side of town in Decatur, right? DJs that would normally stay on the south side, in the SWATs, and buy records at like Super Sound and Third World Enterprises. Now all these DJs are congregating in this one spot, and I'm talking about DJs of all types of different skill sets.
Right.
You know, earwax was that point, you know, where people of all types of different musical backgrounds just kind of came together, and you know, you started. You know, I say earwax definitely was instrumental in bringing the entire DJ community together.
What was the brother's name that ran it? Was it Jazz?
Jazz,
yep. Yeah.
Actually, Jazz wasn't the only one. He was kind of the face of it, but there were other people, you know, that were also involved with it. You know, Talib Shabazz. You had Shabazz, you know, from the Nation Time Syndicate. They were. Now that's a name I haven't heard in at least 2 decades. Nation Time Syndicate. Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about their radio history, Atlanta radio history.
Shout to Nab and DJ Flash and Minister Server. You know,
but Airwax, like you said, was a hub, and I remember Airwax being a place like, you know, if you were an up and coming MC, like Airwax would host ciphers and freestyle sessions. And
DJ battles.
And at that time, you know, if you were a DJ on the come up, you could go in Earwax and leave your mixtapes to be sold and, you know, to be picked up. So for DJs listening right now, why are mixtapes important?
Well, the definition of mixtape is so different now.
It's definitely changed a lot. And that was going to be a follow-up question.
You know, so some people's definition of a mixtape now is just a bunch of material of rappers just, you know, rapping over other people's beats, or sometimes original music. So it's not really a mixtape in the DJ sense,
right.
Or at least not from the era that I came up in. A mixtape was all about a DJ showing their skill.
Correct.
Mixing records together, cutting them up, whatever, blah blah blah. That's what the definition of a mixtape will always be to me and others, like myself that came up in the 80s, early 90s.
So with that definition of what mixtapes are and what makes them important to the culture, what makes a great mixtape from that standpoint?
From a DJ standpoint?
From a DJ standpoint.
A great mixtape, man, it allows you to go into the psyche of that DJ, right? If a DJ is playing some really fly shit on his mixtape, you're like, okay, all right. It just gives you a good glimpse into how that DJ's mind works. How he or she puts music together.
So now with the Eargasm series, what do we learn about you through your Eargasm series? Because you've been doing that for a minute.
Yeah, my first Eargasms mixtape was actually in 2008. I just wanted, like, at that point in time, I wanted people to see that I was more than someone's tour DJ, right? Like from 2000 till about 2008, unless you really knew me personally, a lot of people just knew me as Luda's DJ, right? And the only thing that you would ever think of me is, oh, he's that guy that's on stage with Ludacris. But you didn't really know much about me, you know what I mean? So, I just, while under the influence of Patron and grapefruit juice, that was my poison of the time.
Great choice.
I just put some songs together. I started out mixing Tomorrow by the Brothers Johnson, and I put the acapella of Rich Boy Throw Some D's on top of it. And it came out better than I thought. And I was just like, okay, let me just keep
going.
Yeah. And, this was when MySpace was popular. So, like when I was done, I just put the mixtape on MySpace, not really concerned with going viral or whatever. I just wanted people to be like, yo, he knows
his music.
Yeah. And then, I got to shout out my man, John Gotti from the Smoking Section. He got a hold of my mix and he put it on the Smoking Section. And then next thing I know, people from different parts of the country, overseas, were like, hey, this Eargasms, this shit is kind of
pretty dope, right? Do you remember your very first mixtape, like pre Superstardom, pre Luda, all of that good stuff? Before you even got to V, any of that stuff. It could be your first pause and release mixtape,
well,
which we've all done.
I definitely remember a lot of different pause mixes that I used to do, but I remember I used to work at this record store called Peppermint.
Yes. Peppermint
Records in Greenbrier Mall. And I had a manager. His name was Troy. And, I used to just mix crazy things together. One day I decided to, like, Heaven by BB and CeCe Winans was like my jam. And one day in my bedroom, I just decided to mix it with Set It Off, right? Just on a whim. I brought it to the store the next day, and he was like, what in the fuck? Like, who in the hell would think of mixing Set It Off with BB and CeCe Winans? And the shit actually made sense, I basically just kind of wanted to make some shit that you could put in your car and thump and bump, right? So Set It Off had a lot of bass in it,
of course.
So that was definitely one of the first early things that I put together that made me think that this was something that I wanted to really pursue.
Cool. So we've delved into the origins of your mixtape sessions, and now we're going to fast forward to a moment that changed your life. As a matter of fact, when we come back, we're going to talk about the gig that changed your life and talk about going on the road with DJ Jaycee and all that entails, all the sordid stories of the backstage and the after party, all that good stuff. But so keep it locked right there. This is Shuffle and Repeat. I'm DJ Sir Daniel. My special guest is DJ Jaycee. Listen, this is going to be a good one. Keep it locked right here. It's Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Today's episode of Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast, is brought to you by Scratch DJ Academy Atlanta. Do your friends trust you with the aux cord while you're riding in the car? Is your workout playlist lit? Well, maybe you have the gift. Explore your talents at Scratch Academy. Log on to scratch.com and pick the location nearest you. Again, that's scratch.com and pick the location nearest you and drop the needle today and tell them Shuffle and Repeat sent you. And now, back to the show. And we're back at Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. I'm your host, DJ Sir Daniel. My special guest for this episode is DJ Jaycee. Shout out again to DJ Tommy Black in the mix. Shout out again to Scratch Atlanta DJ Academy, DJ Precise, the whole crew that allowed us to do this here. Also, I want to shout out to my producer and engineer, Johnny Cornegade, in the building, all the expertise in the house. And before we came, the last segment, we were talking about mixtapes. Yeah. And you talked about Set It Off, which is by the record by Strafe, which is a classic. And it reminded me of a lot of old Edward J mixtapes. Mm-hmm. And for those of you outside of Atlanta, Edward J was like a huge staple in the the mom and pop record store business here in Atlanta, and was very important to the hip hop culture as it, from a South standpoint. Mm-hmm. And, just give them a little lesson on who Edward J is.
Oh man, Edward J. I can't say enough about Edward J. His wife and Lady DJ, but originally from Florida. Mm-hmm. He came to Atlanta, I guess like late 70s and or the early 80s. I'm not quite sure, so don't quote me on that. But he had a record store, man.
Candler Road, right?
Well, that wasn't the first location.
Okay.
The first location, or excuse me, at least the first location that I'm familiar with, was on Fayetteville Road, right off of Flat Shoals. Indicator.
Okay.
And that was a spot you could go, man, to get mixtapes. He used to mix records. He also had other DJs that would make mixtapes. Some names you might be familiar with, for those of you listening. If you're familiar with MC Shy-D, Shy-D used to make mixtapes, at the Edward J shop. Shy-D's DJ Man, used to make mixtapes that sold like hot cakes out of the J shop. If you're familiar with Success and Effect,
roll it up, my homeboy.
Yep, my pal, my friend DJ Lynn. He was also on the J team. He made mixtapes that sold like crazy. Yeah. Lady DJ, who was Edward J's sister, she sold mixtapes that sold like crazy. Like basically, Edward J and the J team had Atlanta on smash. Now,
Totally.
Anybody that will try to dispute that, it's undisputable.
Yeah, they're probably not even from Atlanta if they try to dispute
Right.
it. And I'm not even originally from Atlanta. I'm a transplant, but I've been here long enough to know about that history and how important it was for Atlanta to represent hip hop. And somebody that came along in the early 2000s that took hip hop to another level and represented Atlanta, of course, was the Grammy nominated and, you know, movie star Ludacris and this whole Disturbing the Peace camp. And you had the opportunity to be his tour DJ for damn near a decade, right? Over a decade.
11 years.
11 years. And you went on tour with Ludacris. And, you know, just, you know, tell us about that. What was it like? First of all, how did you and Ludacris meet?
Let's see. Well, to be totally clear, we met in sometime in 1995 when he was an intern at Hot 97.5.
When he was Chris Lover.
Actually, before he was Chris Lover. Shaka Zulu was the music director at Hot. I used to live in College Park. And one day, Shaka invited me up to the station to get some records. You know, radio stations, we have tons of promo copies laying all over.
Lots of vinyl everywhere, yeah.
But because Hot was the hip-hop station, they had a lot of hip-hop promos, you know, just, you know, so many copies, you know, the Shaka.
And just to set the scene for everybody listening and watching, you mentioned Hot 97, but at the time you were working for the rival radio station V103,
yes,
which was for all intents and purposes the heritage station here in Atlanta. Had like the highest wattage and the longest reach everywhere in the city and outside the city.
100,000 watts.
100,000 watts. And so they were pretty much the big dog on the block for years, uncontested. But then, like you said, in 95, Hot 97 came along, which was a Radio 1 affiliate. And so you were, you know, hanging out at the rival radio station, as it were, but on some DJ stuff.
To be clear, yeah, I wasn't really hanging out there.
Okay.
You know, it was Shaka just invited me to come through and look through some vinyl, like whatever I didn't have.
And you and Shaka went back before that.
Yep.
To the WRFG days, right?
You know, Shaka used to host a show called Panther Power Hour on 89.3.
Free the land.
Yeah. Shout out to his dad.
Shout out to his dad. Yeah.
You call him on the phone, that's the first thing he says, free the land, before he even says hello. But yeah, you know, so I just used to go up there just to grab extras.
Yeah.
Chris just happened to be up there, and that's where we first met face to face. But what was crazy about that meeting was he was familiar with me as a DJ before meeting me. Because he used to listen to the mix shows on 88.5, right?
That's the Rhythm and Vibe show.
And Vibe show that would come on Sundays. Also, the Bomb mix show that would come on Saturdays from 8 to 10. And then we would do a little bass show afterwards called the 10 o'clock drop from 10 to 11. But yeah, so Chris was familiar with me. The way that I could tell that he was familiar with me was because he actually quoted a specific mix that I did. So that let me know, okay, he wasn't bullshitting, you know, when he said that he was actively listening, because he was like, yo, I remember you played this Slick Rick beat that had all these, you were mixing in all these TV themes on top of it. I was like, okay, all right, yeah, this guy, he's paying attention. Yeah. Okay. But, you know, I didn't know that he was a rapper. I didn't know anything about his previous background, you know, prior to that moment. I just knew him as a guy that was interning for Shaka, right? So fast forward a couple years, maybe like 97. Now he's Chris Lover. He's doing specialized intros, you know, for all the DJs that were on staff. you know. And I just remember hearing he did an intro. He was rapping. I forget what beat he was rapping over, but he was flowing. And I was just like, oh, okay, all right, dude, sounds.
He was serious. And people were recognizing him for that.
Exactly, right? So that was like 1997. Fast forward another 2 years. I used to play at this spot called Kaya on Sundays.
Which was Earwax.
It was next to Earwax.
Next to Earwax,
yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Old School Sundays, that was an event put on by DJ Nabs. I used to see Chris at different little spots around the city. And on one particular night, just kind of out of the blue, he was like, yo, like I'm working on some music. And, I want you to put some scratches on my songs. Now, at that point, everybody and their mama, would walk around town talking about they were affiliated with a record label, blah, 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 blah. And, people would, yo, I want you to do this, da-da-da, but it would never materialize into anything. So I thought that was basically going to be what it was when he started talking, yo, I want you to scratch on my stuff, especially considering he was working at a hip hop station that had tons of DJs on their staff. Like if you're working at Hot, you got DJs like Harold Banks, Nabs, Cersei, Doc, Jelly. You got all these DJs that work at your station, but you're
coming to me.
You're coming to me, right? I don't believe you.
Okay,
but
you thought Chris needed more people.
Yeah. So spring of 2000, he puts out "What's Your Fantasy."
Yes.
Now, speaking to the DJs out there, a lot of you might have the Def Jam copy of "What's Your Fantasy," but if you got to remember the orange Disturbing the Peace label that was on the original copies of What's Your Fantasy. Like he was independent. He had a single release party at this club called the Chili Pepper, Red Hot Tuesdays.
Now, was this the same? Was Fat Rabbit on?
Actually, Fat Rabbit was a couple years before.
Before that, yeah.
So because Fat Rabbit was originally on Timbaland's first album,
and that was a local hit. Fat Rabbit, that was something. It jumped off a little bit.
It was a very big record here. It was so big that my PD at V103, Tony Brown, used to be like, "Don't play that," because he worked for the other station.
Yeah,
don't play anything affiliated with Hot 97. Like we used to play any record that had Hot 97 in
remember
it.
When
we
What
had
About
to make
the
our own personal edits.
Remember when All About the Benjamins was really hot, and that one line, and they weren't even talking about Hot 97 here in Atlanta. They were talking about the one in New York, and they had to bleep that out because that record was so big. There was no way V wasn't going to play it.
Right.
But they had to bleep out the Hot 97. That's how serious the radio wars were down here.
Yeah. So, man. So he single release party. I was spinning at it. It was me, Mars, Trauma, Cowboy. Shout out to Midnight Marauders, Felix and Jarrell. But yeah, single release party. That was like May of 2000, and then he was like, when I get this deal finalized, I want you to DJ for me.
And you were like, what deal? Okay.
Okay, yeah, all right. And then September, I did my first show with him in Cleveland. I didn't know that was going to I had no way of knowing dude was going to be,
because it was crazy.
Yeah.
The way that song took off, and then by the time Def Jam South picked it up and really put some fire. Shout out to Scarface.
Yeah.
And Erica Gary, if you listening, shout out to you. That used to be my homegirl. She worked with them too. it took off in such a rate that it was crazy at that point. So what was like, let's get to the tour part. Like Def Jam South is footing the bill for everything. You guys are first class everywhere, I'm assuming. Okay, what for everybody?
Chris was first class. Chris and Shaka were first class. Everybody else was in row 92Q.
Wow. So let's talk about that. Like for all you DJs out there, myself included, if you want to experience life on the road, what is life on the road like from a DJ standpoint?
You start out. Let's talk about hotels first, right?
Speak on it.
You start out staying in
the La Quinta,
La Quinta, the Days Inns, Howard Johnson,
okay,
Hampton Inn, like all these hotels. We were very familiar with those.
Okay,
even when we opened for Outkast on the Stank Love tour. Which started in February 2001, that went through like late April. A lot of the hotels we were staying in were really 3-star, Throw them bows, blew the fuck up. Now we're at Hilton's. Now we're at...
getting real classy here, yeah.
Well...
We're moving on up.
We definitely like the Jeffersons. We definitely moving on up.
It's a slow cook.
Right. But now we're in hotels where the double trees.
Okay,
you walking in, they got cookies on the bed.
Okay, the warm cookies.
Yeah. Or they got
chocolates.
They set them out for you at the front desk.
Right.
Here you go, Mr. Reed. Some hot double chocolate chip cookies and shit. Then you go from those, then we started doing shows like all over the U.S. right? Because at first he was kind of a regional thing, right? Now we starting to go to L.A. a lot, and you going to L.A. You're in hotels like the St. Regis, in Century City.
You go into hotels that Jay-Z is naming off in his records.
Yeah,
Hotel Nico and places like that. The Indigo and
Century City is not an area to sneeze at. Now people from who are Cali natives will probably be like, "Oh, Century City ain't shit," but the St. Regis was a big fucking deal. Like this is a 40 to 50 story hotel. Luxury, like directly behind the hotel, you got the Fox movie studios. You got top of the line shopping. Directly. I forget the name of the mall, but it's basically the equivalent to it's like what Phipps Plaza is here, right?
Real fancy, real high end.
And I'm like.
So you basically living the life right now.
Starting to get used to it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So St. Regis, and then we start Four Seasons. Now I didn't fast forwarded a few years, but just to give you an idea
of the come up.
Right. We're Four Seasons. We doing shit like the Mandarin, Oriental, going down to Miami.
And you're not sharing a room.
Not sharing. Oh yeah. When you start out, you're sharing rooms like a motherfucker, right? You're definitely sharing rooms. So you're trying to bring chicks to the room. You can't get no ass if you got a roommate. Y'all gotta you have to work out a little system.
Yeah,
what I'm saying. Put a towel by the door. Like, yo,
do not come in. Busy now. Gotcha.
You definitely sharing rooms like a motherfucker. But then you get your own room. Then.
It really jumps off at that point.
Yeah. Like Nas says, life is good.
Life is good. So you've gotten to that point. We're almost a decade in, and you live in that life. And Ludacris is a multi-platinum movie star at this point, right? And the team is strong. You got Shauna, who's getting major buzz in the club a little bit, or she's starting to get some shine, and then Titty Boy, aka 2 Chainz, is on the roster. He's on the sidelines, waiting for his turn to blow. You even have, was Bangladesh on the team? Producer Bangladesh, was he on the team at the beginning?
Chandre, excuse me, Bangladesh, but I know him as Chandre. He produced Chris's entire first album.
Got
right?
it.
With the exception of, I guess, I think Jermaine produced a cut with Pastor Troy.
And Pharrell.
Get off more. Yeah, Pharrell. Organized Noise produced a song on there. But outside of those 3 or 4, Chandre produced the lion's share of that album.
So the team is, so that's the core team right there. And, Shaka, of course, is helping you guys out. So that's Disturbing the Peace. What happened? Like at a certain point, the whole, people kind of dispersed, and you seeing less and less of Disturbing the Peace as a unit. What happened in your opinion, from your standpoint?
Okay. Well, first off, there wasn't really that many times that all of us really rolled together as a unit.
Okay.
Right? When I first started out, literally on the road, it was me, Chris, I-20, Fate,
I-20, yeah,
and our security guard.
Wow.
Shauna didn't really come to that many shows in the beginning because she had just had a child. She had a child, and the child was kind of challenged a little bit, so, physically challenged. So she had to, she stayed home in Chicago.
Okay.
Like, she would pretty much come out if we were in the area. Like if we did a show in Milwaukee, she'd be there. If we did a show in Indianapolis, she's there. Of course, if we're in Chicago,
right,
she's
gonna be there.
She's there. But she wasn't really, out there a lot.
So it's usually mostly the guys.
Yeah.
Holding it down.
Yeah.
When did you realize that, that the Four Seasons era was coming to an end and things were starting to change for you as a DJ?
Well, okay, before we get to me, there were a lot of different things that I saw, before my situation, went haywire. Like, I-20 went from, like you used to always see him with Chris, always. Like even when Chris was just doing the radio thing on 97.5, like you could always count on seeing 20 and Fate
right
with him. They were literally like his shadow. Maybe 3 or 4 years in, 20 had a solo album that came out. It didn't really do what he expected it to do. And I think when the album didn't do well, I think that's when his relationship with Shaka, Shaka was the guy that really makes things happen. Like Chris is the face. Okay. But really behind the scenes, Shaka is the one that's like, okay,
pushing buttons.
Yeah. Right. So
cutting checks.
So, that fell apart. I think there was a rivalry between I-20 and Chingy. Because Chingy wasn't an original member of DTP, and so like Chingy just kind of came out of nowhere and put out an album before 20,
and kind of blew up.
Kinda,
yeah. Let's be real about it. He
triple platinum is
that's nothing to sneeze at,
right?
Definitely.
So that created tension. There was also a fight on stage between I-20 and Shaka during a show in St. Louis. Like this shit actually happened, right? But it was definitely because he was upset, that Chingy kind of leapfrogged him and put out material. Shauna had an album that didn't do well, as was
It was
projected.
a solid album too.
It could have been better, but that's just my opinion. But so there were a lot of things going on. So the unit was definitely dysfunctional.
Okay.
At times.
So there was lots of expectations that know how most hip hop fairy tales start off is like, yo, when I get put on, I'm putting all of y'all on, and everybody's going to get put on, and everybody's going to be rich and famous after that.
Okay, yeah. Case in point, the Disturbing the Peace album that came out in 2002. You had Eminem. He put his crew out, D12,
mm-hmm.
right? You had Nelly, came out with Saint Lunatics, right? Luda was just as hot, sales-wise. Well, maybe not putting up Eminem and Nelly type numbers, but he definitely had a lot of success. So they figured, okay, let's put a DTP album out. It went gold, but people didn't really. It didn't really.
It didn't stick. With the people. Gotcha.
I remember going on a promo tour to promote that album. We tried promoting that album without Chris, because Chris was shooting Too Fast, Too Furious at the time. So DMX had fucked it up for like all the rappers that were making movies. Like he used to do movies and disappear from the sets and shit. So when Chris was doing Too Fast, Too Furious, they wouldn't let him leave the set, right? So we going promoting this album, and we had this big ass tour bus, with everybody's face on the bus and shit, and it was crazy. We would go to different record stores in the mall. You see long ass lines, people, because people wanted to see Luda. Let's just keep it one motherfucking 100. Like people thought Luda was gonna be at the album signings and shit. So lines, and then I to this day I'm glad I'm not a rapper, man, because like I witnessed on multiple occasions, like when people all the people standing in line. And then when they get to the front of the line thinking that Chris is going to be there to sign the album and they don't see Chris or they didn't see Shauna, people would be like,
who are these guys?
Like, where's Luda at? Where's Shauna at? I don't want no fucking autograph from the hype man, and like I saw this shit in multiple cities, and it happened so much that our promo tour got cut in half because like a Def Jam rep was traveling with us. They got to report back. Exactly. They got to report back to Kevin Lyles and Leor.
Where is my money going?
Right.
What is the return?
And consistent negative reports like, yo,
it's time to bring it on in.
So like after 3 weeks they deaded it. But yeah, there was a lot of dysfunctional shit going on, behind the scenes. For you to really get in depth and get to the root, I would suggest you do an interview with Shauna or 20 and Fate. So
let's talk about you.
Let's talk about me.
You and your relationship with Ludacris, or after spending 10 years as his supporting DJ, like. What happened? Where did you see the disconnect between you two?
Well, I first started seeing things that didn't make sense where I was concerned as a DJ back in 2002. We were on a tour with Eminem. I did a mixtape, and didn't get any support, like Chris didn't.
No cosign.
No cosign. Okay. And then that's all I wanted, because the mixtape was fire, right? All you got to do is just be like, yo, this is my DJ, blah, 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 blah. But I couldn't get that. And then, they would start doing things for other DJs. And, it would kind of be like, look, I'm right here. I want to drop.
So let me let me play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
Was your relationship, and I'm assuming after 10 years you guys did form some sort of relationship, but was there ever any discussions? Did you flat out ask, or did you feel like you didn't have to ask?
From day one, I because I'm a person that I pay attention to other artists. Mm-hmm. And especially if other artists have DJs, I like to see what they do, right? So Exhibit was popular. Mm-hmm. He had a DJ by the name of DJ Invisible from Detroit. Exhibit was doing hella shows, and Invisible would always be doing parties and shit after, right? Snoop Dogg had a DJ Jam. Wherever Snoop would be in town, Jam is, doing the party, right? That's what I wanted.
Okay.
Especially because I had a DJ career before I started working with Luda. It's not like he just kind of plucked me out of the bedroom somewhere, right? Like I was already doing clubs,
was already hot in
battles, radio.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So, let me take this shit from city to city, right? Couldn't really get the cosign, and I had conversations with him, face-to-face conversations with him, and he would always just kind of be like, yeah, like I'll try. What I learned was there would be a lot of passing the buck, like he would pretend to not know about something and then be like, well, you should have asked Shaka, right? Then I go to Shaka. Ask Chris. You with Chris every day. Blah blah. Just kind of back and forth because they don't really want to just keep it. Like if you tell me, hey man, I'm not trying to embrace you as my DJ, I'll respect that, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll figure out my own way to get it, right? Not that I feel that I'm entitled to. I never felt that I was entitled per se, because there's a lot of people, since I've been fired, I've learned, that a lot of people think that I thought that I was entitled, that I thought that Luda was just supposed to do certain shit for me, and that I wanted a handout.
Okay.
I never wanted a handout.
So you used the word fired. What was that moment like when was it even face to face, or were you let go via text, or
It definitely was not face to face.
Okay.
Okay, here's what happened. I tweeted a couple of things,
Wait! You did a Donald Trump. You was firing off tweets early in the morning, and like they were hot takes.
No, well, they got misconstrued as hot takes.
Okay,
but Luda Day weekend was going on. Here it is, 2011. Luda Day weekend was something that if you're here in Atlanta, takes over the city.
Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend is transformed into Luda Day weekend. So here I am. I'm his DJ, and I never got to rock at nothing during Luda Day weekend, except, when he would perform at something, now.
So no parties, no gigs, nothing like that.
Nothing like
because of Luda Day weekend, nothing ever thrown your way.
Never.
Okay.
Right. So, to be fair, hey, I had conversations with him. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, man, I would like to DJ during Luda Day weekend. I don't necessarily want to be the main DJ at a party. I don't give a fuck if I'm spinning at 9 o'clock when the doors open or 2 o'clock, before they get ready to close. I just want to get on the tables somewhere. It wasn't a money thing, right? Because I understand that the weekend is about charity, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Plus, I was already making some cool money. So I'm not saying, dude, you got to hit me with some bread, blah, 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 blah. anybody that knows me, they know I'll DJ for free if I want to.
Don't say that too loud.
I mean,
people will.
No,
take
I mean,
you up
I'm just
on
saying,
it.
if it's something that I want to do,
Right, I got
bad
you.
enough,
Yeah.
like, fuck it, I'll do 30 minutes, an hour. I mean, I've been known to play longer, but if it's something that I want to do, I don't give a fuck about the money, right? So let's just state that it's never been about the dollar amount, right?
Okay.
So, it was just another years gone by, nothing happening. After having a conversation, hey man, I want to play. I'll see what I can do, blah blah blah, right? And it would never happen. And then I just reached my breaking point, man. And I was at Loca Luna. I had some Hennessy in my system. I had two phones. I had my iPhone. I had my BlackBerry. And I got on my BlackBerry, and I was like, a lot of people have been asking me how come I haven't been seen DJing at any of the Luda Day weekend events. Ludacris don't like his own DJ enough to let him rock. Plop, send. It wasn't.
It's out there. It's in the universe.
Yeah, it's in the, hey, if you want to go back 6 years to dig the tweet up, be my guest. It's there, I didn't say fuck Luda, fuck your mama, fuck your daddy. It was just a tweet regarding Luda Day weekend.
Fueled by that Brown.
Right? But again, the tweet wasn't vulgar. It wasn't this bitch ass nigga ain't never let me rock. It wasn't like that.
Right.
Right? But I hit send. Right? So literally I'm talking about right after I hit send, I'm at my table.
Notifications just going off.
Right. The first notification I saw was from Julia Beverly from Ozone Magazine.
Okay. Uh-huh.
She retweeted it and she was like, "Ooh." She was like, "Ooh." So I was like, "Okay, maybe."
Can we talk the shady retweet has gotten a lot of people in.
It's gotten
in
a
trouble.
lot of people fucked up.
Like
a lot of people.
The news reporter that kind of retweeted live at the press conference about Jamil Hill, saying what she said about tweeting what she tweeted about the president. I think kind of went viral after that because then I Heart Huckabee on stage got mad and said what she said, and so that started a whole chain reaction, and so now you started a chain reaction,
right? So, it started with the Julia Beverly ooh, right, and then somebody, because it wasn't just one tweet, it was maybe like 5 or 6 tweets, but all the tweets were specific to Luda Day weekend.
I'm sure the bloggers had a field day.
Somebody screenshotted all my tweets, made a blog, titled it "Luda's DJ Puts Him on Blast." So,
needless to say,
yeah. After
that, you got the text.
What's crazy is I did 2 shows with him after that. After that happened, right? Because that was during Luda Day weekend. So, we had a event to do with Red Bull. That was at the World Congress Center. And then, a few days after that, we had a show in Toronto, which ended up being my last show. But I did the show, but he didn't say you're fired right then. I just did the show, right? I came back to Atlanta. We had like 3 weeks worth of international dates that were about to come up, right? 2 days before we get ready to go out the country, this is when the bullshit started happening. Like the road manager, JP, Keisha Knight Pulliam's brother, he's like, I wasn't able to get your work visa. What? Nigga, you asked me for this info 3 months ago. Right? Wasn't able to get your work visa because your passport is about to expire and you have glasses on in your picture. What?
That's clever. It's a clever way of curving you. Like,
okay. So, but here's the anti-curve, right? JP, he's in charge of anything that has to do with touring, right? If there's any type of emergency that comes up, he got a black card. If there's a problem, make the problem go away, right? So I hit him. I was like, okay, well, I can go to this Passport Expedition place on Roswell Road,
right?
And
and make it happen.
Yeah, if that's what it's about, fuck it. I'll go up and
spend a couple extra dollars, get it,
right. So
let's get it popping.
He's like, okay, right. So I go. They tell me, in order to get a new passport and a work visa turned around in 2 days, because my flight is Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. It's Monday afternoon, right? In order to get this shit turned around, it was gonna cost a couple grand.
Okay,
like actually close to $4,000 to be exact, right? I hit JP. I'm like, hey man, put that black card down, buddy. Make it happen. Take it out of my show. Take it out of my show money. Okay. I'll pay for it. I don't have the money right now, but just go ahead and pay for it. Make it happen. See, I gotta talk to Shaka. What? Nigga, Chris has never done a show without me. What, you gonna beatbox? He's gonna do the show a cappella, nigga? Like, what? You got the black card. You got the power to rectify what the problem is, right? But I'll call you back. So all of Monday went by. All of Tuesday goes by. Now it's 3:30 in the morning on Wednesday.
Are your bags packed?
I mean, all right. So what happens is JP comes over to my crib at like 3-something in the morning after a club, and he was like, "Let me get the instant replay machine from you." And I'm like, "Word? You gonna do a show without me?" Yeah. But I'm not fired at that point though. Right? So I give him the instant replay machine. I'm like, okay, fuck. It's all types of dates on the schedule that I was looking forward to. I was looking forward to going to Turkey and Singapore, places that I had never been before, because I wanted to go see the Great Wall of China and all that shit, right?
But you kind of knew something was coming down the pipe, though. I mean,
actually, no. Like, okay. To be cocky, I was like, okay, y'all do 3 weeks worth of shows without me. When you come back,
you'll be back.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Because again, Chris was used to working with me, right? Mm-hmm. So at that moment, I didn't see being permanently replaced, right? So I paid attention to Twitter, and I noticed DJ Infamous. He sent a tweet.
Are we talking about Infamous that used to work at V103? DJ.
Yeah, anyway, so I see the tweet.
No, I used to work with him, so I know who you're talking about.
I used to work with him too.
Yeah, we all used to work together and didn't even know it at the time.
Yeah, so
continue.
So I see the tweet. He's like, headed to Singapore with my big brother Ludacris. Right? So I'm thinking, interesting. Yeah, they'll miss me by the time they come back, because he ain't fucking with me.
Okay.
Skill wise, stage wise, he's not fucking with me. So I just figured 3 weeks, they'll see you with some bullshit and come back, and that wasn't the case. They came back. Shaka invited me to the office, wanted to have a meeting, wanted to talk about the Twitter shit. And, I was like, hey, man, I apologize. I apologize. It was sincere. Like, hey, man, I'll never, ever say nothing about this nigga on social media ever again. You know, we ain't never had no issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, because at this point you have to think 11 years of loyal work
should count for something.
Right? You know, you got niggas on your staff that stole money from you. You got niggas on your staff that done tried to holler at your chicks, and, you know, but former artists accusing you of stealing money. You know, hey man, you know, I just wanted to DJ during Lou the Day weekend. You know, I don't give a fuck about none of that other shit. We don't have no money issues. We ain't got no issues with chicks. You know, none of that shit. But, you know, Shaka was like, at first, Shaka was like, sit these next couple of months out. What?
Well, for a tour DJ and for, you know, for the working DJs out there, what is sitting out a couple of months? If you don't have steady gigs at home, what is sitting out for a couple of months? What would that do to your income?
It will fuck you up. But at that point in the game, I was cool.
Okay.
Right? You know, because really, like, from 2007 till about 2007 is when I really started making good money from the shows. You know, like, before 2007, my show pay wasn't really nothing to brag about, you know. And even what I was getting from 2007 to 2011 is nothing to brag about, but it was definitely better than the 7 years previous, right? So, yeah, when somebody tells you to sit for a minute, it's just like, okay. But again, I didn't think that was going to be my end, you know. So, you know, I had Luda money, which was life money. And then, you know, I was back on the radio at this point.
Okay.
The V103 money was kind of trick off money. I want to buy some sneakers, records, strip club, whatever. You know, I could fuck that off, right? Because I always had this over here, you know, right? But then, you know, a lot of, you know, it set a lot of things in motion. All my gigs that I had started drying up. You know, there were cities that I used to go to a lot on my own. You know, that I used to do parties and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But when people found out that I wasn't affiliated with Chris, like, all that shit
dried up.
Right.
So what would 2017 Jaycee tell 2011 Jaycee?
What would I say? Don't say shit about your jobs on social media.
I think that's a blanket statement for everybody.
Don't say
whether
shit.
you're a DJ or
social media.
Stay off that social media, or at least save your gripes from social media.
You know, if you're not if you're not sure about your people, you know, that you call crew or family, stay the fuck off social media, right?
I think that's a perfect place to stop. And when we come back, we're going to talk about radio, and you know, radio's kind of coming back into your life, and DJ crews. Yeah, all that good stuff with DJ Jaycee. This is Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. I'm DJ Sir Daniel. I told you it was going to be a live one. Keep it locked right here. We'll be right back.
We just warming up, baby.
It's Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. Let's go.
Yo, what's up, y'all?
Hello, advertisers. It's DJ Sir Daniel. Thank you for listening to my show. Don't you love my voice? Well, it can be yours for an on-air spot just like this one. Email me at shuffleandrepeatpodcast@gmail.com. That's shuffleandrepeatpodcast@gmail.com for details on how you can get your own custom-made cotton candy sweet as gold live commercial spot. Let's get this money. Cross between Kane and
Thank you, ma'am. So whether you think that I'm just a myth,
Hey, hold on. Last quote. This the quotable right here. Here you go. Woo! Hot damn, I'm great.
I'm on the quote.
Yeah.
All right, man. We are listen.
Tim Dog.
If you've never been to a live recording of Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast, you just got to come one time. If you're here in Atlanta, just keep your eyes open. Follow me on my website, thesirdaniel.com. Just follow me on Instagram, DJ Sir Daniel, and keep up to date on the next recordings because there are going to be a lot more coming in the future. We've been having a very live conversation with DJ Jaycee, breaking down his history on the road with Ludacris, and of course talking about being a radio mix show DJ. And at the time you were at V, V had a real heavy roster of DJs for their mix shows. Shout out to DJ Herb,
Oh yes,
Tommy Fix,
Herb,
DJ Dose, DJ Cowboy,
Rest in peace,
DJ
DJ
Chip.
Dose.
Yes, rest in peace, Dose. Tell us about that. Leads me to this. Tell us about your days as being a part of the Super Friends DJ crew. I mean, because, there's pictures floating around with the jersey and, the throwback and the hat to the back. And I think y'all had baseball cards, too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Super Friends were major in the city.
Yeah.
Y'all were real heavy out there. Come on,
All right. Hey, okay. I told you, ask me anything.
Hey, so what was that for, DJ, we hear a lot about DJ crews. What exactly was the benefit to being a part of a Super Friends? Or, later on you had the Legion of Doom and then you had other affiliates coming along.
What was the benefit? I mean, if I'm just really keeping it honest, it wasn't no motherfucking benefit for me. Okay. Like, you get in a crew because you want to feel like you're a part of something, right? Mm-hmm. You figure you're in a crew with like-minded individuals. It started out. It started out with good intentions. Super Friends started out with like 7 members. Mars, Doc, Trauma, Fahrenheit, DJ Precise, not this Precise, but there was a Precise.
Tri-State Party Precise from Brooklyn.
And some light-skinned guy named Jaycee. So, yeah, it was like 6,
gotta have the
7,
one light-skinned dude, right?
It started, a squad of DJs who are making moves. So,
looking back on that experience, what could you all have done to further DJ culture? Since you're saying it wasn't that much benefit, what could you guys have done to further the culture, or to improve the legacy of other DJs on the come up?
It would have been a better experience if it just would have operated like a crew. If you're gonna be crew, be crew.
What does that mean?
Means if you're doing parties, let everybody rock, right? I started out as a Super Friend member in 1997. I was asked to be a part of the Super Friends. I didn't go to, hey, I want to be a Super Friend,
So let's be clear, you were recruited.
Yes.
You were first draft pick. Let's
pretty
say
much
it like that. Okay.
I mean, not being cocky, but that's just what it was. I was I was on V103. Yeah. I was doing 88.5. I was playing at a lot of places in the city. Mm-hmm. So I had a name. I was asked to get down with the crew. We took pictures on top of Esso. Crew pictures.
Wow. Club Esso. SO was on Peachtree.
Cortlandt Street.
Yes.
Yeah. Shout out to Abe.
Wow.
But yeah, started out as, you think it's crew. They weren't really marketing savvy at first, right? So, for the first 2 or 3 years, it was just basically a clique of niggas.
With matching jerseys.
Yeah, well, we didn't have jerseys at that point.
Okay.
Jerseys and baseball cards and shit that didn't come into the game till maybe like 2001, 2002. At that point, they had a guy on the squad that was into marketing, right? So he was the guy that was like, this guy, his name was Real, so he was like, yo, y'all need to rock jerseys. Y'all need to get custom jackets and blah, 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 blah. Put your money together and, so, y'all already official, but this shit'll make y'all look more official.
So
right?
DJ Jaycee wanted to do that today and organize something. What would that look like, and what would be some of the benefits of becoming part of this crew? Like, would there be, a lot of times in the DJ community, we see a lot of message boards and Facebook groups, and we always talk about and joke about the amount of money that people, try to pay us, or as far as, what it takes to pay DJs and what's respectful, things like that. Do you think a DJ crew, a well-organized DJ crew, can have an effect on that?
That's what Super Friends was supposed to be.
Okay.
But
it didn't happen.
Yeah. That's what it was supposed to be. If everybody, sticks to a certain price, then, that creates the value for all of us, blah, blah,
right.
blah. If everybody is on the same page, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, you got niggas wanting to play that stuff for free. This is how I lost, one of my first DJ gigs. I lost a 2-year regular spot at the warehouse that I used to do on Friday nights to a nigga that wanted to play for free.
People like the free word,
So yeah, that's what it was supposed to be at first, right? Everybody's supposed to be on the same page, with the money, Then, okay, we have to go back. Like I said, the Super Friends, they weren't really marketing savvy at first. They did a few parties here and there, blah, 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 blah. But then, like after 2000, the parties started getting bigger, better. They started having, little celebrity parties, actors, athletes would start coming through. And I started noticing, now granted, I'm on the road with Luda, right? But I'm also noticing that when they're starting to have these parties, nobody's asking me to play at none, right? So, 2004, I stepped off. I had a conversation with Mars. I was like, hey, man, like, I'm just a name on the back of a T-shirt. Like, I'm traveling all around the world, repping this shit, going everywhere with this Super Friend jacket, Super Friend jersey, repping this shit. But I come back here and I'm not DJing at nothing. I'm tired of repping some shit that's not repping me.
So now, with that being said, you still had your career on the air. You were back with V103 by that time, and starting in 2008?
Yeah, I came back to the radio in 2008.
And so you've been on the road. You've mastered the whole mixtape culture. You've evolved as a DJ at this point. So now going back to radio, and radio is all about programming. Everything is programmed, from the commercials we hear to the same 10 songs we hear every hour. It's all about programming. So to go from that to being back on the air, did you feel like your creative side was was fed, or was it stifled coming back to being on the air?
Okay. Shout out to DJ Herb. Memorial Day weekend 2008. I'm poolside in Phoenix chilling. You know, Phoenix was like a second home to me. I get a page from Herb. Herb is like, "Yo, you want to come back to radio?" I'm like, the only way I'll come back to radio is if I can play what I want to play, right? Because I was noticing a trend. You know, you when you start traveling a lot, you go to other cities, you hear what radio sounds like in different cities. I started noticing that radio started sounding the same everywhere I went, you know, whereas it used to be different. You know, you could go to New York and you would hear Funkmaster Flex, you know.
Dropping bombs on everything.
Right, you know, but New York sounded like New York. You go to Philly, they don't sound like New York. The DJs, they don't sound like New York DJs. You go to DC, they don't sound like Philly. 40 miles away in Baltimore DJs don't sound like DC, even though they're right there, right? Different cities used to sound, saying all that to say, every market was kind of unique. But then there was a trend where radio program directors started putting the muzzle on DJs that used to be able to play what they wanted. They started saying, you can only play the records on this list. Right. So now you're going to different cities and everybody's sounding the same.
Yeah.
Right. So when Herb hit me, I was like, I don't want to sound the same. I don't want to sound. I mean, I'm going to sound different than everybody else anyway, just because we all hear music differently. You know, like if everybody in here had the same crate, we would all have the same music, but I can guarantee you that everybody would play differently.
We'd approach it differently.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was like, if I get to play what I want, and he was like, yeah, you can play whatever you want. I'll holler at Reggie. You know, and we'll see, you know, what's good.
Program director Reggie Rouse.
Right. A couple months later, I have a face-to-face meeting. It's me, Herb, and Reggie in Reggie's office. Reggie is like, play with, hey, Herb says you're dope. Play whatever the fuck you want to play. Really? You sure? You sure? Play whatever the fuck you want to play. All right. Trust me, I'm going to play whatever the fuck I want to play.
Right.
And that is exactly what I did from the moment that I, you know, because I was still traveling a lot. So at first I wasn't mixing live. You know, I would record my shit in my bedroom, email it in, go fly somewhere, you know, go to Dubai. My fucking mix is playing on the radio, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, people responded to what I did. You know, ratings, you know, which is very important.
Very
you know,
important for
Arbitron, PPM. You know, they got specific things to look at. You know, and if your number
TSO and all those numbers,
if your numbers suck, you out of there, right? So, I put numbers on the board. You know, all age demos from 18 to 24, to 25 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 plus. I was number one for playing what I wanted to play. I didn't have no, you know, now occasionally me and Red, we would butt heads on some of the things that I would play. You know, now he gave me a very stern talking to for playing Dead Prez on the air, you know, because, of course, you know, the second verse, they're basically talking about what the fuck commercial radio sounds like right now. You know, I'm sick of all that monotonous material, fake thug, blah, 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 all day on the radio. You know, that's what radio is, the same 10 fucking songs, right? So I play the shit. I'm in the booth rocking. Reggie comes in and he's like,
he's staring in that window. if you've ever listen, let me set the scene. If you've ever worked at that radio station, if the program director, especially Reggie Ross, stands at the window and looks at you and gives you the death stare,
cut that motherfucking
it's not
record.
a good thing.
Cut it off.
It's not a good thing. So go ahead.
Yeah. So you know, we occasionally butted heads on certain records. You know, there were certain records I couldn't understand why he would give me problems about, like, let's say the New Edition "You Don't Have to Worry" remix. It was a fucking hit with Missy.
Yeah.
Remixed by Puffy, right? It was a fucking hit, but every time I played that record, he would always be like, "That New Edition record, what?" Right? So that wasn't a regular occurrence. But then it started happening a little bit too much. The month before I got fired, I saw the writing on the wall. It was a Friday, you know, typical Friday. You play crunk Atlanta shit on the radio, right? In my particular mix, I played Hootie Who, Two Dope Boys in a Cadillac, Youngbloods, UA, Couldn't Be a Better Player, Lil Jon.
Mm-hmm. All your power records at the time.
Classic Atlanta
Definitely.
records.
Yeah.
Right? He pulls me in his office and he's like, we got to talk about some of these records that you're playing. And I'm like, what? Two Dope Boys, Hootie Who, like, these are not good Outkast records.
Excuse me?
Like he fucking said that shit, and I'm sitting right across from him, and I'm looking at him like, what? Saying to myself, you've got to be fucking crazy. Like, you, what?
Yeah.
Right? When I expect you to play, the Outkast records that I expect you to play are Rosa Parks, Miss Jackson, Elevators. I'm like, bruh, you play these records every day. You know, like, Outkast just sold out 3 fucking nights at Centennial Olympic Park playing Hootie Who.
And Two Dope Boys.
Yeah, in addition to, you know, those, right? But he's giving me, you know, and it's not like this was my first time playing these records. I had been playing these records over the course of 8 years with no issue. None. He never, ever questioned me about playing any of these records, right? So, like, right after that happened, I sent Nabs a message. You know, Nabs was at Boom. I was like, hey, man, let me know if something comes available over there. I was like, because I'm getting questions about Hootie Who and Two Dope Boys and Couldn't Be a Better Player. Like, records that we know
right.
are classics here, right? You know? And he's like, damn, that's fucked up. So, yeah, that was a month before I actually got fired. The day that I got fired, I walked in the office. You know, he came to the booth and, you know, asked me to come to his office and shit. And he's on his computer, and he pulls up records from a mix that I had did maybe the week before, right? Where I started off with Brazilian Rhyme by Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know, now as a DJ, we know what that is, right? Brazilian Rhyme was never a single. It was, you know, it's not a #1 hit per se, but
it's a nice segue.
Yeah,
it's
you throw that shit on,
yeah.
like,
yeah.
Motherfuckers get the soul clapping.
Yeah.
You know, like,
people want to throw powder on the dance floor. They're getting ready. They about to go in.
You know, I looped that part.
Yeah.
And I had Lisa, I Wonder If I Take You Home up under it.
Sounds solid.
#1 hit. You know, all my mix, you know, since he pulled up everything else in the mix was fire. But he was like, Brazilian Rhyme, Earth, Wind, what is this? So I tried to tell him what it was, but he didn't give a fuck. His mind was already made up that he was gonna fire me. So, you know, he told me, he was like, you know, I'm ending your employment. You know,
So-
over a fucking Earth, Wind, and Fire record. A 15-second loop of an Earth, Wind, and Fire record that was on top of a #1 record.
Right.
A classic. But
So I think with that being said, if another opportunity were to come up, but say a program director was more DJ friendly, would you go back to radio?
I would go back to radio again if as long as I'm not playlisted. I would do radio here in Atlanta. Okay. I think that I'm perfect for Boom, right? You know, because I listen, I hear what Nabs plays. I can do that.
And for the people
Easy.
out there, Boom is more of a
Hip-hop station.
Hip-hop station, but plays more retro, classic hip-hop.
Like that's
golden
me all
era.
day.
That's you all day. Got you.
You know, I can listen to Kiss 104. I hear classic R&B. You know, Magic 104. I listen to those stations, and I'm like, I was doing all that at V, right? So if I were to get back on radio, I just want to be able to play what I was already proven to play.
Gotcha. I told you this was going to be loaded, completely loaded. But I'm DJ Sir Daniel. Let's shuffle and repeat the podcast. We'll be right back. This is DJ Sir Daniel. Thank you so much for listening to Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. And right now I want to talk to my business owners. You, the advertiser. This spot could be your own, very own custom-made commercial spot. Let's talk about it. Email me at shuffleandrepeatpodcast@gmail.com. That's shuffleandrepeatpodcast@gmail.com. You can get your very own custom-made commercial on-air spot read live by me, DJ Sir Daniel. So let's talk about it. Now, let's get back to the show.
What was that? That was Words of Wisdom, right? Yeah.
Words of Wisdom. DJ Tommy Black has just been keeping us bubbling over here. Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. I'm DJ Sir Daniel here talking with DJ Jaycee, having a really eye-opening conversation about his life and times on the road, on radio here in Atlanta. But let's talk about DJ Jazzy Jeff's 2017 playlist retreat. Give us the rundown of that experience. What was that like? Did you feel like Harry Potter getting the letter being invited to Hogwarts? Was that it?
I've never seen Harry Potter, so
So that reference was completely wasted.
that shit completely went over my head. Like, you might as well have been speaking Japanese, nigga. I was like, what?
No, but yeah. So were you hand selected to be a part of that?
Yes.
So you were picked to go to that. From what I understand, this takes place at his home.
His home, yes.
And so he gathers DJs and producers, musicians from all across the country,
From all
across
over the world. Yeah.
And the objective is at the end of the retreat. What is it? 7 days?
No. Shit, I wish it was 7 days.
How many days is it?
It was really 5 days, 4 nights.
So 5 days. So at the end of that, the objective is that you as a collective are going to come up with new music. Isn't that correct?
That's one of the things that happened.
Okay.
You know, basically, he just puts all these people together, just on some camaraderie type shit. You know, you collaborate. You know, you see the type of people that you're around. Like, that shit motivates you to want to be creative. Like, basically you get put in a situation like that, man, that should light a fire up under your ass to, you know, like if you're slacking, which I'll admit I have been, you know, I haven't really been on top of my shit, but being there around geniuses, like, I mean, I'm talking about, man, I was around some really, really great musical minds, you know, great songwriters, great artists, great producers, great DJs, like all that shit rubs off on you, you know. It definitely one of the greatest experiences of my life, period.
So taking that experience and the feeling that you got, which I'm sure you'll remember for a lifetime, when you, as an instructor, and you come across a student, what kind of impression do you want to leave on a student after that you can, you know, take from that experience with Jazzy Jeff and impress upon a student?
I you know, with my students here, I think me and Precise, we just really, we want DJs to just really tap into their full potential. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't necessarily have, like, when I was coming up, I didn't have a teacher, you know, like there were no DJ schools,
right? You
know, so like everything that I kind of learned, I learned from like watching people. But yeah, you know, we just try to inspire, like use our experiences, you know, Precise as a battle champion, you know, super inhuman on the scratch. Like I'm talking about, this guy is an alien.
Yeah.
You know, like I always refer to him as an alien. When I come in here, he's always on the tables doing some fucking cuts that I'm just like, God damn it, man.
How you do that, man?
Yeah.
How you do that? Yeah.
You know, but, you know, we just try to use our experiences, you know, and share them, you know, with the people who are really passionate about learning. Like now, if you don't really want to learn it, then fuck out of here. You know, I'm not going to. I mean, you know, they say you can't take, you know, your knowledge and shit to the grave with you, right? You definitely want to pass. You want to pass it on to people that you see take a serious interest in it. Like if you're getting into the game, you know, on some, I just want to get some quick money, blah blah blah, and I want to be famous. I'm probably not gonna vibe with you too tough, you know. But if you come with a pure love for the music, you know, because ultimately it's about the music.
It's about the music,
right? You know, so if you approach it from that standpoint and you're really sincere about wanting to learn, hey man, I'll tell you everything I know. I'll tell you what to do, more importantly, what not to do. You know, because, hey, I've had conversations with Tommy and Lib, you know, it's like, don't do this. Do that. Do that. Do way more of that. Don't do this. Do that. You know, I want to pass. I want to pass it on to the people who are passionate about learning. People Absolutely. Who are as passionate about it as I was when I was picking it up. If I see that in you, then yeah.
So speaking of passion, let's have a passionate rapid fire session real quick with DJ Jaycee. First thing that comes to your mind when I say these terms, topics, numbers, whatever it is, just first thing that comes to your mind.
Why did I agree to this?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, 1987 versus 1992.
Music-wise?
Music-wise, because you just recently did a 87 versus 92 party, correct?
Yes.
So hip-hop. So what was the verdict? 87 versus 92.
Man, I love both years, man, but because I was getting... I was, you know, wanted to just really get, you know, submerge myself in it. You know, I would lean towards 87.
87, golden era. Okay, cool. Celebrity DJs, helpful or hurtful?
See, that can be, if they take the craft serious and if they're, you know,
They have that passion that you're talking about?
If they got the passion, cool. You know, if you're just in it for a quick, fuck out of here.
Gotcha. Worst excuse you've heard from a promoter explaining why they don't have your bag, meaning your payment, your money.
Worst excuse. Okay, this has actually happened to me. I was just flat out told that I wasn't going to get my money. So I whooped his ass.
Okay, and we're not going to name names because we don't know the statute of limitations on.
Oh, you know, it's been 22 years.
Oh, okay. Well,
so you know. Hi, Alex. How you doing?
So, wow. So back to the celebrity DJs situation. I agree with you about, if they're passionate about it and they really, really want to learn. I don't see anything wrong with it because it can actually make I can see why promoters will latch on to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there are some good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there are, some other ones where I'm like, why? Like, I love Snoop. I don't want to see him behind no turntables, though. Like, I don't.
True.
Now, granted, Snoop knows some great music. Like, I remember being in L.A. during the Holiday Inn video shoot with Chingy. And he was in a drop-top Impala, smoking weed, listening to Jackson 5, Everybody's Somebody's Fool. And I was just like, yo, like, he knows some dope-ass music, but Technique-wise, nah.
Wow. Man, Jaycee, it's been definitely a pleasure chopping it up with you and having you on Shuffle and Repeat. I know this conversation could go on much longer than this. Like I said, the stuff that we talked about off air, that stuff needs to be in a book. That kind of stuff you need to go ahead and put in a book and, definitely put your life on paper.
A lot of people have told me that I should, and they don't quite know how to take me, right? Because you're so used to seeing me not really say much, you can't really get a read on me. But I think the people that really try to get to know me, I mean, I certainly have flaws. I'm certainly a flawed individual, but I'm trying to work on rectifying some of the flaws,
And so if anybody wants to find this flawed individual, DJ, Jaycee, how do they get in contact with you and how do they keep up with you? Twitter.com. You still tweeting? I'm just playing.
I don't tweet as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Because I think when I first started tweeting, I didn't really get it. But then once I got it, I was like, fuck, I got to tweet everything.
Yeah.
Now, everybody don't need to know
everything.
The kind of water I'm drinking and shit.
So what's the Twitter handle?
DJ Jaycee, DJ Jaycee. You can hit me on Instagram, Instagram.com, DJ Jaycee 313. I always gotta rep the hometown. Detroit. Shout to New Face. What up, though? So yeah, DJ Jaycee 313. You can find me on SoundCloud, even though they don't let me upload anything new, because I got so many strikes, copyright issues and shit. But SoundCloud, Periscope, I'm known to do an impromptu live set on periscope.tv/DJ Jaycee. I have a monthly party, Eargasms. That's now 5 years. Been doing that for 5 years. I started that because I didn't have any after I got fired. I didn't have nowhere to DJ here in Atlanta. You know, even though I was on the radio, I didn't have a place in the city that I could play music that I liked. So started that. You know, it's been going on for 5 years now. I just did a mixtape about a month and a half ago called Blends with Benefits. DMC. Will I compete in 2018? Probably not. I think I'm done with the DMC aspect. But Red Bull 3 Style, that's like my favorite DJ competition right now. So they just announced the USA finalists earlier this week. I didn't make it, but it's just inspiring me to go harder next year.
Next time.
You know.
Well, there you have it, DJ Jaycee. This has been Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. We're going to keep that passion going. And remember, we're doing it for the culture because we are the culture.
One last thing.
Okay.
I actually want to say thank you to Ludacris real quick. You know, I know like a lot of people thought that this was going to be a messy, where I was going to, I had some good times traveling with him, like it definitely was a great job, but on the other hand, I'm kind of glad, that happened, because without that happening, I wouldn't be doing some of the things that I'm involved in right now, so, he just celebrated a birthday, so happy birthday, Chris. Thank you for firing me.
And that's very important, just to know that whatever path you're on, some things happen only for a season, and then you move on to the next thing. Whatever opportunity you have will take you to the next one. Yeah. So I appreciate you for sharing that, for sharing your stories with us. I appreciate you guys out there listening to this podcast. Remember that you can always find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Always go to thesirdaniel.com to check out Shuffle and Repeat, the podcast. I thank you once again. And until next time, we'll see you later.
There's no way that the crowd can sit down.
Give it up for Jaycee, y'all.